I have already saved businesses across industries over $1 million in costs just by implementing AI the right way. And right now, I'm working on a LinkedIn content system for a creator with over 20 million followers across platforms. In this video, I'll show you how you can grow on LinkedIn using AI the right way to find winning ideas fast, analyze what's working, and implement a content system that actually fits into your business. After all, growing on LinkedIn is harder than ever. You don't know what to post, spend hours planning content, end up writing with AI, and when you post, the only comment that you get is actually someone calling you out for writing your entire content with AI. So if you don't want this, watch all the way until the end of the video because I'll leave you a nice surprise at the very end. Let's get started. So first things first, you are probably thinking about growing your LinkedIn account by writing with AI so you can post more and be out there more often. But just like me, you've probably seen other people commenting on posts just saying this was written by AI, or is this just fully AI generated content, or AI slop, or something along those lines. And the reality is LinkedIn is filled with a lot of AI generated content that people generally don't like. Now, I'm not here to debate the reasons why people wouldn't like AI generated content on LinkedIn, but I wanted to bring you guys to this research study that I have mentioned a couple of times in the channel from 2023. This was a research study conducted by a group of scholars, a group of researchers from MIT and University of California, Berkeley. And in 2023, they looked into how people were perceiving and accepting AI generated content. And they found out in this research study that the subjects actually preferred human generated content, but they didn't dislike AI generated content more than they did the human generated one. They just had a bias towards the human generated content. And this only happened when they actually knew where the content was coming from. So the whole premise of this conclusion is when people know how that was written, or when they know if it was generated with AI or not, they tend to prefer things that were not generated with AI. Now, there is that quick mental shortcut that just because something was written with AI, people are very quickly discarding it. And in LinkedIn specifically, people have taken a lot of advantage of writing with AI content because they want to be out there. They want to attract customers. They want to put themselves in front of employers. And writing with AI is really easy, or it's much easier than it once was to write a piece of content with a few hundred words and just post it out on LinkedIn. Interestingly enough, LinkedIn doesn't even have a AI label, or at least not as of the moment of this recording. I'm not aware that LinkedIn has an AI label, just like Instagram is implementing, just like YouTube is implementing, and TikTok, if I'm not mistaken. If you are on these other three platforms that I've mentioned, you might have stumbled upon an AI label or an AI info on Instagram, for example. And it looks something like this that's popping up over here. Now, what this AI info does, it lets the user know that that piece of content, that image, for example, might have been adjusted, altered, or pretty much fully created with AI. And that is an effort to keep things transparent from these platforms. I'm not sure if LinkedIn is doing it, but as of right now, I haven't seen anything or any specific labels by the platform that just allow users to know what is AI generated or not. So how can you actually use AI effectively to grow your LinkedIn account? Well, that's exactly what I'm trying to answer in this question. And this is the playbook that I'm actually implementing for this influencer. I'm not allowed to say too much about the influencer, but what I can say is that we came up with a way of analyzing other people's content and figuring out what is working. And that creates a system that allows us to have ideas and create content based on that. So this is pretty much a viral replication applied to LinkedIn. And if you're not aware of what viral replication is just looking at what's working on these platforms and pretty much replicating it with your own twist. Obviously, there's people that are just going to quote unquote plagiarize the whole thing and copy word for word, just like you see a lot on TikTok, for example, of someone just, copying a video word for word and just re-recording with a different face. But the idea and the way I like to do it, and this specific person likes to do it as well, is to just copy the format, the structure, and the packaging around those types of videos. So that's kind of what we're trying to understand from what's working in the platform. But first, you need to find out what's working. And you could go on LinkedIn and spend hours scrolling on LinkedIn until you find a post that is doing better than average. The other way is to actually use a data scraper that relies on AI. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. So first things first, we are going to go over to Relevance AI, which is a platform that allows you to create agents. And I want to use Relevance AI here specifically because they have a really good LinkedIn connection, especially for this scraping context. Now, As you guys can see, I had just logged in straight away to my Relevance AI account. They do have a free trial. I'm currently paying for Relevance AI because I have a couple things working in the background. So once you log in, you will see this screen and you will be able to see on the left-hand corner your agents, your tools, your workforce, and everything in between. They used to have a templates thing, but I think now everything is just compiled in Marketplace. So here we can scroll down in Marketplace and you will see all the types of posts, or not posts, all types of scrapers and types of tools that they have inherently available with Relevance AI. So here we can just search up LinkedIn, and when we search up LinkedIn, a couple options will come up, and here I will actually look for this thing over here called Get Recent Posts from LinkedIn. What we're trying to achieve here is to pull information from a specific account on their recent post and figure out what are the top 10% performing posts. So in this scenario, this is kind of the scraper part. Before you get onto the scraper, before you start putting a bunch of random names, you need to know your niche, right? And this, I'm taking it as a given because I'm assuming that if you're watching this, you are already creating content on LinkedIn or you're planning on. So just think about your niche and think about the content that you're trying to make if you're not yet doing this type of work. And look on LinkedIn who would be the accounts that would make sense for you. Maybe you're a content marketer and you want to follow LinkedIn or the LinkedIn style of Gary Vee or maybe Neil Patel or whoever it might be. So you just go ahead to LinkedIn and find their accounts. And by the way, this also works if you are doing content for a specific company profile. You just need to look up the company profile and use the same exact scraper that we were looking at. If you don't want to use that one, there are other scrapers here available in Relevance AI. You can also use Apify or whatever you prefer. I'm just going to show you this workflow with Relevance AI because this is how I did it when I first started working on this process. So you will see that once you click on that scraper, that this screen pops up over here. And here we're going to try to get the recent posts from LinkedIn. I'll click on clone. And here I'm pretty much sure that the input will be these two things. We need to find the LinkedIn URL of the person that we're finding, that we're researching for. So this can be either for a person or for a company, and they instruct what the URL should look like. And here we're just trying to find winning ideas, right? So you can pull from even different niches, and actually it would be a good idea to pull from different niches. So for example, if you are in content marketing, maybe you go over to Bill Gates' account, and I actually haven't followed Bill Gates for that long, but I would assume he talks about tech, and you just pull inspiration from tech style posts to see if you can implement that same structure or maybe that same packaging into your specific niche. It's always good to do these viral application ideas across niches because it's a creative way of trying something new. More often than not, if you are doing the same packaging for the same niche, it will work a little bit better, but this is for the sake of being authentic and creative. So you do whatever you want. All right, so here we will select that we don't want any reposts, and I will go over to Gary Vee's profile, and here we have linkedin.com/GaryVee, or Gary Vaynerchuk, his full name. And I want to pull all of the posts in the last 30 days. So we're going to look at the last 30 days, and we're going to see what are the things that we can get from. Now here, there's two main things. If we run the tool once, we will see that we will get a table because the data is going to get structured using this Python script over here. This is the structure that we will see. We'll just see it in a format that it looks like a table, right? And here there's like three main things that we're going to be looking at: the post, the when it was posted, and the post ID. But we're actually interested in the number of reactions, likes, comments. Reactions will be probably the better KPI here because it compiles different types of reactions to figure out what is the average of reactions that person gets. Because then we're going to figure out what does the top 10% look like. And then we're going to focus on looking at only those. So we're going to go back to build, and we are going to scroll down to get LinkedIn posts. Now here, you will see the status 200. This means it worked, and we will click on data. Once we click on data, you can either get something that looks like this or something that will look like this. If you have this thing popping up formatted, you just need to go ahead and click on raw, and this will just change the format and will allow you to copy this better. You can still copy this information like this if you want to. I just changed it so Claude can interpret it a little bit better. But let's take a look at what this scraper pulls. First things first, it pulls the attributes of the post. If there's images, number of appreciation, number of comments, number of empathy. This is just the types of reactions that you have on LinkedIn, all the way until the LinkedIn post, as well as when it was posted, the URL, if it was reshared, and the text of the post as well. So these are the things that we're going to be interested in. First things first, we're going to be interested in average number of posts. So let me go ahead and click on formatted, click on copy. And we're actually using Claude for this because I tried using ChatGPT and I just ended up in a loop where ChatGPT kept asking me for more information, just like pretty much saying like, oh, let me know what type of reactions you want or how many posts you want. Do you want me to include reposts and stuff like that? And I just kept giving ChatGPT instructions and it just didn't process what I wanted. So that's why we're going to be using Claude for this because as soon as I tried this with Claude, it just took a couple of seconds, but it worked right away. Now, if you don't have Claude, you can try using ChatGPT. I cannot guarantee that it will work. I also can't guarantee that Claude will work, but I'm telling you that from my experience, it has. So here, we're going to first paste that text content, and in Claude, it will appear over here as almost like a file. And from here, I can instruct Claude with a quick prompt. So the prompt here for me will just say, you're looking at a scrape from Gary Vee's latest post on LinkedIn. I want to figure out the average number of reactions that Gary Vee gets in this sample, as well as the top 10% of posts. Start with the total number of posts in the scrape and move on from there. And here I'm just going to click send and wait a little bit. We will see Claude working in the background little by little. And it just kind of is going to walk us through step by step of what it's doing in the background. Now, first things first, I'm trying to gauge the average number of likes for Gary Vee because we're trying to find outliers in this sample. In fact, while this is running in the background, for a quick context, on LinkedIn, people tend to have less number of likes and less number of reactions than other platforms. Now, this might sound intuitive, but when you're doing content for like many platforms, you might look at Instagram, for example, and you did a post on Instagram and you got maybe 50,000 likes, and you did the exact same post on LinkedIn or maybe adapted for LinkedIn and you got 2,000 likes and you think that you're doing poorly, when in reality, that's kind of like the nature of the platform. I did an analysis also on Bill Gates, who is the largest single personal account on LinkedIn. And I can tell you right now that his average number of reactions was really surprising, but I'll get to that in a little bit later. All right, so Claude didn't take too long. It took a couple of seconds and it gave us a CSV file, which we can download and use to create our own analysis. But the whole point of using Claude here is that we can avoid going over to Excel and doing all of this analysis by hand, and we can just ask questions back and forth and move a little bit faster here. So we know that there were 50 posts in the scrape. The average number of reactions was 1,825. And the top 25 or the top 10% of posts, which in this case were going to be these 5 posts, had an average number of reactions of 7,800 reactions on the top 10%. And out of those, there was I don't know if we can call it an outlier because I haven't run the statistics, but the top post was this one with 10,000 reactions, which pretty much is almost a 5x on what the average reaction is from before. Actually, maybe a little bit over than a 5x. Yes, it is a little bit over than a 5x. So the top post, which was posted a week ago, had this amount of reactions. We're definitely going to be interested in what this post was and what these other 5 were as well. Oh, nice. And even Claude proactively gave us the quartiles here. So we know that the bottom 25% of posts have around 650 reactions. The average number of posts has around 985 reactions, the 50th percentile. And the top 75 has 2,000. The top 90% has over 3,000. So it is a spread out data set that we can look at. So from here on out, we can do a lot of different things with this data. I'm interested on the top 5 posts to see how Gary is getting these types of reactions, more specifically these top 4, because we can see that the gap between the 5th and the 4th is actually pretty big. So these 4 posts are definitely going to be interesting ones to look at manually. And obviously you can ask AI to analyze it for you, which is kind of what I just did down here. But for this scenario, I would be curious on looking at these posts myself and figuring out what they have in common. You could have this set up as an automatic workflow in the background that pulls this type of data every week or so, or maybe every month or so, and automatically analyzes how other accounts are doing in comparison to yours, or what posts are going viral. But here, since we're doing this for research purposes and to figure out what kind of posts are working on LinkedIn so we can go ahead and do our viral replication, I'm more interested in seeing what these posts look like. And maybe I can come up with something for myself. All right, so we see that Claude did the analysis on Gary Vee's top 5 posts. And here, if we scroll down on the analysis, it even gives me a little bit of a breakdown of key commonalities and patterns for Gary's posts. We can see that a lot of it, 100% of it, is very work and leadership focused, with his personal philosophy over here and anti-conventional wisdom. That looks like because the topics of his posts are work-life balance, kindness in business, anti-micromanaging, and perseverance, and as well as the last one is leading with trust. So that's nice. That's good to know. It also gave us a little bit of an analysis on the structural patterns. So Gary Vee's average posts have 132 words with 5 paragraphs, a lot of ellipses, and very strong hooks. And then if we keep scrolling down, we will see notes on tone and language, on emotional appeals, on format elements, and everything like that. For this one, for example, it looks like 80% of his posts have visual support. But interestingly enough, his top post, this one about work-life balance over money, was just a plain text post that I was looking at over here. Plain text doing super well, and it went viral. So you never know actually when it's gonna go viral, which is why it's good to try out new things. Now from here on out, you can decide how you're going to act on this data. You can go ahead and copy the structure. You can maybe copy Gary Vee's style. Even if you're looking at it over here, you will see that Claude says that 60% of Gary's content has profanity, including the F-bombs to emphasize authenticity. If you follow Gary Vee, you know that he's out there cussing all the time, and it's not a problem. It's part of his brand, but you're never going to beat Gary Vee at being Gary Vee. You know what I mean? So if you're going to take notes from people that are making content, maybe take very, how can I say this in a good way? You need to take notes with your authenticity and your brand in mind. If your brand doesn't involve including profanity in your content, don't do like Gary. Just don't follow his lead. Maybe follow other types of insights that you're getting over here. For example, this one over here, 60% of Gary's content or of Gary's posts include a rhetorical question to engage readers. And that's really good. It looks like it works. Otherwise, their team wouldn't be doing it 60% of the time. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that when you are using AI to create content for LinkedIn specifically, you should be thinking about doing it authentically and in a way that aligns with your brand. And I'm just reiterating this point over here because I know that a lot of things on YouTube may look super simple, but if you're not doing this due diligence in the background and this, base work, and you're just copying other people's posts and posting it out there, you can't expect to actually get really good results, just like these people are doing. Obviously, there's a lot of authenticity that goes into Gary's post. The same works for Simon Sinek or Mark Cuban or Neil Patel or Bill Gates or all of these successful accounts in the platform. At the end of the day, this process that I'm sharing with you guys is just a way for you to get data-driven insights really quickly, to figure out how you're going to pivot your post for the next week or maybe for the next day. If you already have a content calendar in place and you have one day that you're left for creativity, or you want to always implement new things to see what's going to work and what's not, this is a really good way to get started. And now, for example, you know that these are Gary's top 5 posts, and from here on out, you can choose to make a piece of content for your brand about kindness in business or about micromanagement. Here, for example, you could include a story about micromanagement, which looks like, I'm actually not sure what Gary wrote here. I think he's just his opinion. Yeah, he's just saying stop micromanaging dumb shit that actually doesn't matter. It's an overarching statement. You can take the same idea and make a post about a story of a manager that micromanaged, or someone that you had to train who was micromanaging, and they, became someone who didn't micromanage, someone who led. And as you guys can see, the point that I'm trying to drive home here is that now you have this data. You know what's been performing for really big accounts or for whatever accounts you're searching for. So use that data wisely. You can use it. You can grab all of this information that we use over here. As you guys can see, these post content, and I can just do this, copy it, paste it over here and say, can you recreate this post for my niche? And obviously Claude would go ahead and write it. I actually don't even think it has enough information on my niche to do this. Yeah, it doesn't because I haven't provided it. But you could go ahead and just say, can you just create the same exact post for my niche and post it on your account? But I'll tell you something, people are probably going to notice. And you know that people are probably going to notice. So AI can make things a lot easier, but you shouldn't be neglecting or avoiding work just because AI makes things easier. You wouldn't be able to do this information that quickly if Relevance AI wasn't a platform that you could just scrape the data and Claude wasn't another software that you could just input the data and get insights really quickly like this back in 2020, for example. And to be honest, this is a point that I'm going to keep hammering on my videos here, because I see a lot of people using AI for a lot of really good things. It has its limitations, and there are definitely smart ways of using it. If you're using chat interfaces just like this, just like ChatGPT or anything else, you can use it just like I'm using it in the video. You can also just put together an automation that does it for you. Each specific use case for AI will have a specific outcome. So you can think about AI as electricity, and this was an analogy that I saw Bezos do. It's a horizontal enabling layer. That's how he framed it. AI is something that will improve pretty much every department or every job in one way or another. Maybe it will help you do things faster, just like this data analysis. Maybe it will help you automate part of customer interactions or customer support interactions that are things from FAQs, for example. However AI is implemented, there is a better strategy in each specific scenario. And for marketing, it is still very emotion based. And I'm hoping that you watching this can at least think like a marketer if you're not one, and think about what would be the best way of implementing this technology for my work. Instead of just replacing what you're doing on a day-to-day and having AI do it for you, think about how can I use it strategically to actually yield the best results. Because at the end of the day, these are the things that are going to actually move the needle forward. If I just do this exact same workflow here, and at the end, instead of me going on this 5-minute rant about why you should do it this way, instead of just asking AI to replicate it, I could have just showed you like, look, and now you just copy this, paste this prompt, and just replace the name of your niche with the niche that you want. And now you have 5 posts that are proven to go viral based on Gary Vee's account. So that could have been one thing. I don't think that's the best way of going about it. So just keep that in mind when you're building your own workflows, and when you're using AI, use it smartly. And if you're curious how you can implement AI the right way in your business, just feel free to book a call with me down below. The first call is completely free, and I love helping business owners out, at least figuring out what they should be doing with AI and how they should be going about it, instead of just downloading a bunch of templates online and trying to implement them in a very disjointed manner. It would be better to just, get a little bit of guidance and do this the right way. So with that being said, go ahead and book a call in the first link in the description below. Or you can go ahead and watch the video that is popping up over here, because YouTube thinks that you will enjoy it. So with that being said, I'll leave the video here, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.